So, Fiona, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on. It's great to have conversations with people because that's what's keeping us together these days. I think, it's wonderful to talk and connect, and that's what we've all been missing. So I'm looking forward to today.
You've been known to, work with high-level sales professionals across Australia and some parts of the world as well. So tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges they are facing over the past couple of months.
Yes, well, the challenges that everyone is facing that I talk to is still the unknown. I mean, no one knows what's going to happen next, and no one knows really when it's going to end, if it does. So what people are trying to do now is get through the next tricky time, and like I always talk about extracting value from the customer equation. So how do you extract the most value? And that's really hard right now because there is a lot of pressure on pricing. There is a lot of pressure on rates. There's a lot of discounting being requested because of that uncertainty. So that uncertainty in the market is driving a lot of the approaches to salespeople, and it's really hard for them to stay focused on that value equation.
What fears are they really facing though as a sales professional?
So as a sales professional, a lot of people are facing, will my job and my business still be in business this time next year? Because, as we spoke about, changes are coming in terms of support for salespeople and sales businesses, events businesses. So people are wondering what my future is going to look like, how long will this last, and also fronting up to have brand new discussions. Sales has completely and utterly changed 180 degrees to what it was before COVID. In my opinion, there is a completely different way to talk to customers now and to negotiate business events, and that's completely changed. In my experience, over the years, I've seen a lot of salespeople just walk in with their product and do product dumps, as we call them, talk about features and benefits, which are generic. They're sort of generic and in an imaginary world. And now we have to have really strategic discussions with customers around what they're trying to achieve, and really then try and sit down and work out a brand new way to get there. So there's fear of my job, there's fear of cash flow, and there's fear of I have to become a different salesperson now. So how do I do that? I'm not, if I feel I don't have the tools, I am afraid of having those conversations. And I also want to be successful to maintain my career long term. So salespeople are in a bit of fear right now, I believe.
Yeah, and my empathy really goes to all our fellow sales colleagues in our world and beyond. But how would you advise them to, obviously the pressure to convert when business is scarce is going to be there for a while, right? So I think it's all about really managing upward. It has always been. So what advice would you give salespeople in terms of managing upwards when the expectations get a little bit overbearing?
Yeah. So the two things about fear are fear comes when you are anxious and when there's uncertainty. So when you're anxious, you can bring in a method of which I like to call deep breathing. So when you're about to have a conversation upwards, the first thing that I would do, and I do, is I take 3 deep breaths. And what that does is it regulates the breath throughout your body, and it enables your brain and your mind to actually become clear and then make a conscious choice. The second thing that fear does is bring us into uncertainty. So what you've got to do is sort of somehow within your body take control. And the way that I do that, whether I'm managing upward or talking to a client, is I bring value to the conversation. So I don't talk about what's going wrong. I talk about what I can do to change it and what I'm doing and putting in place as I step forward into the future. And I talk about my plan of what I'm going to put in place. The value that you can bring upwards is your pipeline. Talk about the pipeline conversations you're having. And then I think the most valuable thing that salespeople can do is connect and collaborate with their leaders, because sometimes salespeople like to think I've got this, and if I'm a good salesperson, I should be able to do this on my own. But what COVID and 2020 taught us is that we all need to start connecting more deeply and have open conversations and be that little bit vulnerable and come to your leader and say, I need to come up with something different for this customer. I really want your help in collaborating with me to see what we can bring forward and what value we can bring to this customer. And then start those really interesting, innovative, creative dialogues with your leaders. So that is something that you can do to always sort of get yourself out of fear, but it's also, that's when you open up. So when you're breathing and when you're taking control and bringing value, that's when you're enabling yourself and your whole team to actually say, okay, we're okay right now, let's see what we can come up with. And that's when you start bringing ideas out of the blue. That's when you can start innovating and thinking about things differently, always from the customer's expectations, and how can you both gain value out of that negotiation. It's not about giving it all away, and it's not about win-lose. It's about how can we win, how can they win, and how can the environment win, and how can we all stay sustainable.
Yeah, I absolutely love your advice on that. And I also believe that truth is so important as part of that conversation. As you say, the value statement. And I think that, we also should empathize that perhaps customers are not allowed to spend. They're not allowed to have events at the moment because of safety. That could be down the track. And I think that escalating that messaging, or perhaps get customers to really say, put your mind, so that we can sort of like communicate this message within our organization, so that we can continue to work on some solutions for you. What are some of the things that you are going through? I believe that there are customers out there who will be willing to do that.
Oh, absolutely. You're so right. And, you've hit the nail on the head there, because, I even wrote a post yesterday. Was it yesterday or Tuesday? I wrote a post that said, just because your sales hotline isn't hot right now doesn't mean you stop reaching out to customers. Because what we need to start doing, as I said before, and as you rightly pointed out, let's think about what's going to happen when they actually do pick up the phone. Don't be surprised at that point. So let's start thinking about, well, what do you want to get out of it? And then we can start planning and using this time behind the scenes to come up with new ideas. And once you start doing that within your business, that's when you start to feel empowered, and when you start to feel that control come back in, and that's when the fear dissipates. So I always talk to customers. In fact, every moment I have, I'm talking to my clients and people in the industry, because every single time I gain new information. And it's so funny, because you talk to one person who's in one venue and they'll say, oh, we're expecting it to all come back quite quickly. And the next person you talk to says, well, we've got nothing on the books and don't expect anything on the books. The next person you talk to will say, we've been having great conversations and it's all there. We just have to wait it out. So how do we wait it out, Fiona? So, bringing all of that truth, bringing all of that, the downs, the ups, the everything to your leaders makes them then feel empowered and a bit more in control and less in fear as well. So I totally agree with you. You're onto the right thing there.
Fiona, give us an example when you talk about, having conversation around the value statement, not doing a product dumping. If I were to be working in a sales role in a venue or hotel, and I'm surrounded by competition who have got quite similar number of rooms on the size of ballroom and so forth. So what sort of differentiation when it comes to value statement could I bring to the table?
So it all starts with, what is your customer trying to achieve? And you see a lot of salespeople will go into meetings with customers and say, look at us, this is what we do. And customers don't care about what you do. They actually care about what you do for them. So the first point is to sit down and to work out, what is the actual value that I bring to my customer? So customers pay you for the service you provide, but they buy the value that you exchange with them. Now, I've been in many senior sales roles, and I tell a story in my sales training course of a situation where we went to pitch on a piece of business that we told would never come to our property, and was 99% confirmed at a competitor's property already. And so we went and thought, okay, they're an incentive agency. What are they trying to do? They're trying to bring the wow factor. This might not be relevant right now within COVID times, but it's an example of value. And we looked at it and said, they want to bring the value to their VIPs. They want to make them feel like they're the most important people in the company through this trip. So we went and researched within our own resources, currently existing, not buying anything new. What people do we have? What resources do we have? What ideas, creativity, skills do we have that we could turn this pitch into a creative masterpiece to bring out that wow factor to their VIPs? And we showed them through a site inspection what we could do. It was no longer talking. It was, this is the value that we'll bring to your VIPs. We didn't talk about price. We didn't talk about anything other than what problem we were solving for that customer. And that customer wanted their VIPs to feel like winners. And that's what we gave to them. And they shifted the business out of the competitor and gave it to us based purely on the value that we were going to bring to their business. Because we found out that, you know, if their VIPs weren't feeling valuable enough, then their sales wouldn't be as good the next year. So we found that point of problem that they were trying to solve that no one else had asked them about, and that's how the venue, it was over $1 million piece of business, so it was really well worth it.
Wow, that is such a great example, and I simply love what you said earlier that really sparked this and I think epiphany, because it's really about showing and not telling. I think everybody can sort of like be on the phone and say, oh, we could do this, we can do that, we can look into this and so forth. But I think there's nothing greater now, you know, with the power of social media or, you know, video production capabilities, that people could really show this is what we mean. This is a new area that we have converted into an experience and so forth. And because I truly believe that we're coming to an era, we've always been like this, I think, in Australia, but I think for the rest of the Asia Pacific region, that I think venues could really activate the content production perspective. They can really value add to the content that some customers are really craving for, because I think when we extend the empathy to incentive travel organizers or event strategists, we also have to understand that they may not even have the manpower now to execute some of the content creation.
Yeah.
And if I'm based on a property whereby, you know, I have a, I don't know, oasis of outdoor nature or something like this, very much so we can be part of that, for example, CSR component or some element that could be quite different when it comes to the mindfulness or any activities that we try to execute for the ease of the attendees.
Sales is really, to me, when you break it down, to get a sales advantage, you need to bring your value forward, as I said before, to solve the customer's problem. So as you said, CSR, if you had that garden, you don't show off the garden, you show them